The tribunal chamber exploded with purple light as Mika's restraints shattered. High Judge Velkarn, the massive crystalline being with 12 spider-like legs made of sharp violet crystal, stumbled backward on his podium, his crystal formations pulsing erratic red light. Prosecutor Gis, the bronze-armored insectoid with 4 arms and compound red eyes, dropped the data tablet she'd been holding in 2 of her 4 arms, mandibles clicking frantically. The holographic death sentence still floated in the air between them. The words, "Execution approved," glowing an ominous red. Mika stood on the central platform, rubbing her wrists, looking less like a condemned criminal and more like someone who'd just been mildly inconvenienced. She was short, maybe 5'3", wearing a torn gray jumpsuit that was supposed to be restraining but clearly wasn't anymore. Her dark hair stuck up at odd angles. She yawned. "So," Mika said, stretching her arms overhead with several loud pops. "We doing this or what?" Velkarn's crystal body pulsed angry purple, his voice emanating from somewhere deep within his formations. "Human Mika, you have been found guilty of 17 counts of unauthorized technology distribution, 43 counts of cultural contamination, and 1 count of—" He paused, crystal formations dimming slightly. "Teaching the Glorbian population the concept of pranks." "Technically," Mika said, examining her fingernails, "that last one was just cultural exchange." Gis's mandibles clicked so fast they blurred. She raised all 4 arms, 2 pointing at Mika, 1 clutching a weapon that looked like a crystalline rod, and 1 gesturing wildly. "The Glorbians are still doing the whoopee cushion thing. Their entire diplomatic corps. Do you understand what you've done?" "Created joy?" Mika offered. "Created chaos!" Gis shrieked, her bronze armor plates rattling. Ambassador Tronak, the gelatinous observer from the collective, almost destabilized from embarrassment. On cue, Tronak, the translucent blue blob floating near the wall with his glowing internal organs clearly visible, pulsed a deep, embarrassed orange. He extended a pseudopod and waved it dismissively, bioluminescent patterns flashing across his membrane. "I have recovered. Mostly." Ambassador Rourke, the older human diplomat with gray hair and deep stress lines around his eyes, stepped forward from his spot near the wall. He was wearing an Earth diplomatic uniform that looked slightly too tight, and he was sweating despite the chamber's cool temperature. "Your Honor, if I may?" "No," Velkarn said, all his crystal formations flashing red simultaneously. "Worth a shot," Rourke muttered, wiping his forehead. Velkarn's spider legs clicked against his crystalline podium as he shifted his massive frame forward. The purple-blue holographic lights flickered, casting strange shadows across the silver walls that curved 50 feet overhead. "The sentence is death by molecular dissolution. You will be escorted to—" Mika laughed. Actually laughed. It echoed in the massive chamber. Everyone froze. Gis's compound eyes somehow managed to look shocked, despite being compound. Tronak stopped glowing entirely, just a dark blob in the air. Even Velkarn's crystal formations went completely still. "Oh," Mika said, still chuckling. "You actually think you're going to execute me?" "That is—" Gis's mandibles clicked uncertainly. "That is what a death sentence means. Yes." "Right, sure." Mika nodded, hands in her jumpsuit pockets. "Quick question, though. Did any of you actually read my file? The whole file?" Velkarn's crystals pulsed confused yellow. "Your criminal record is quite extensive." "Not that file," Mika interrupted, rocking back on her heels. "My species file. My actual human designation file." The silence stretched. Rourke closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose. "Oh, no," Rourke said quietly. "Oh, yes," Mika said brightly. Jis scrambled with her 4 arms, pulling up holographic displays that floated in blue light around her. Her bronze armor scraped as she moved. Human, female, age 23, Earth years, height below average, weight. She froze. All 4 arms stopped moving. Her mandibles clicked once, very slowly. "What?" Velkarn's crystal voice had an edge of concern now. Jis's compound red eyes stared at the holographic display. Human designation. Apex Class 7. The temperature in the tribunal chamber somehow dropped 10 degrees. "What does that mean?" Tronak pulsed nervous purple, his translucent body wobbling as he floated. Rourke opened his eyes. "It means she's one of the enhanced ones." "Enhanced?" Velkarn's crystal legs clicked nervously. "The ones," Rourke continued, his voice flat with resignation, "who survived the Cascade incident. The ones the Earth Defense Force used to test things on. The ones who came back different." Mika gave a little finger wave. "Hi." "But the record said..." Jis frantically scrolled through displays with 2 arms while the other 2 brandished her crystalline weapon. "The record said all Apex-class subjects were locked in Earth military compounds, under triple security. How did you—" "Oh, I walked out," Mika said casually. "Tuesday afternoon. Nice day. Little cloudy." "You walked out of a military compound?" Velkarn's formations flashed disbelieving white. "The doors weren't really a problem," Mika shrugged. "Security Chief Carix, the massive 8-foot-tall reptilian with green-black scales and 4 powerful legs, entered through the chamber's main doors. Her vertical yellow slit eyes locked onto Mika, ridge of spines along her back raising slightly. Her long, thick tail swept behind her as she moved, scales catching the purple-blue light. She carried a weapon that looked like it could vaporize a small ship. "Hi, Judge," Carrick said, her voice a deep hiss. "I have the restraints ready for prisoner transport to the dissolution chamber." "Carricks," Velkarn said slowly, his crystal formations pulsing uncertain orange. "Did you read the prisoner's designation?" Carricks's yellow eyes narrowed. She pulled up a wrist display, scales on her 4 legs flexing. She looked at it, looked at Mika, looked back at the display. Her spines flattened completely against her back. "Ah," Carrick said. "Yeah," Mika said. "This is highly irregular," Carrick continued, her tail now very still. "Extremely," Mika agreed cheerfully. Tronak's translucent blue body pulsed confused patterns. "I do not understand. What is an Apex Class 7? She is small, very small. I could extend pseudopods around her entirely." "Please don't," Rourke said quickly. "The Cascade incident," Jis said, mandibles clicking as she read from the holographic displays floating around her bronze-armored form, "was a dimensional breach experiment. Human test subjects were exposed to—" Her compound eyes widened impossibly. All 4 arms went limp, to raw dimensional energy, for 17 hours. 17 hours, Velkarn repeated, his crystal voice hollow. "Most test subjects," Jis continued, voice getting quieter, "died within seconds. A few lasted minutes. 7 subjects survived the full exposure." She looked up at Mika. "They gained abilities." "That's a diplomatic way to put it," Mika said, cracking her knuckles. The sound echoed like gunshots in the chamber. "What kind of abilities?" Tronak pulsed nervous red. Mika smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Want me to show you?" "No," Rourke, Carricks, and Velkarn said simultaneously. Too late. Mika took 1 step forward. Just one. The air around her shimmered, then cracked. Purple-black energy spiraled up her arms, lighting the chamber with an otherworldly glow that made the holographic lighting look pale. The metal floor beneath her feet groaned and buckled, red emergency strips flashing wildly. Jis stumbled backward on her 6 legs, bronze armor rattling. That's dimensional energy. She's channeling dimensional energy in her body. It's more like it's just there, Mika said conversationally, the purple-black energy crackling between her fingers. Like having an extra arm, or 7, except the arms can unmake matter at a molecular level. Velkarn's crystal formations started pulsing, panicked yellow-red patterns. High Judge Emergency Protocol. I am declaring... Mika flicked her wrist. The massive crystalline being, all 12 feet and 12 spider legs of him, flew backward off his podium. He crashed into the silver wall with a sound like 1,000 wind chimes shattering. His crystal body spider-webbed with cracks, purple light bleeding from the fractures. "Oh shit," Rourke whispered. "That," Carrick's roared, raising her massive weapon with all 4 legs bracing her stance, tail whipping for balance, "is assault on a galactic judge. That is instant death." "Get in line," Mika said. The weapon fired. A beam of white-hot plasma screamed across the chamber, bright enough to bleach the purple-blue lighting into pure white. It should have vaporized Mika, should have left nothing but atoms. Mika caught it, actually caught it, with her hand. The plasma beam just stopped in her palm, purple-black energy swirling around it, containing it, making it bend and spiral like water down a drain. "Huh," Mika said, examining the captured plasma. "First time I've tried that. Neat." She threw it back. Carrick's dove sideways, her 8-foot frame surprisingly agile on 4 legs, green-black scales scraping the metal floor. The plasma beam punched through the wall where she'd been standing, leaving a perfectly circular hole that glowed red-hot at the edges. Tronak was pulsing every color simultaneously now, his translucent blue body flickering with panic patterns. "This is not standard tribunal procedure." "Really?" Mika deadpanned. "I hadn't noticed." Jis tried to run, all 6 legs scrambling on the metal floor, 4 arms flailing, mandibles clicking in terror. She made it maybe 3 steps before Mika gestured lazily, and the insectoid prosecutor just stopped, frozen mid-step, bronze armor plates trembling. "Temporal lock," Mika explained to the room. "Another fun cascade trick. She'll unfreeze in about an hour. Might have aged a few seconds. Won't remember most of it. Probably." "Mika," Rourke said carefully, hands raised, sweat now pouring down his face. "What are you doing?" "Making a point," Mika said, the purple-black energy still crackling up her arms. "You all keep treating humans like we're cute little primitives who don't know better. We teach you pranks, we're criminals. We share technology, we're dangerous. We exist outside your rules, we get death sentences." She gestured at Velkarn, who was trying to pull himself up on cracked crystal legs. "But the second we show what we're actually capable of, suddenly it's all panic and emergency protocols." "Because you are terrifying," Tronak pulsed, his gelatinous body trembling. "Exactly," Mika said. "So why did you think executing me was a good idea?" Silence. The kind of silence that follows a bomb. Velkarn, now standing but listing badly to one side, his crystal formations dim and cracked, pulsed weak white light. "The Council. The Council must maintain order. Humans have been disrupting." "Disrupting what?" Mika interrupted. "Your perfect little galactic system where you're all in charge and everyone follows your rules? Where you get to decide who lives and who dies based on whether they color inside your lines?" "Yes," Velkarn said simply. That is how society functions." Mika laughed again, darker this time. Society functions until it meets something it can't execute. Carix, still on the floor with her weapon lost somewhere in the chaos, her green-black scales scraped and ridge of spines flat with submission, hissed quietly. "What do you want?" "Finally," Mika said. "The right question." She let the purple-black energy fade, the chamber's purple-blue lighting returning to normal. The red emergency strips stopped flashing. "I want you to understand something. Earth sent me here as a test. Not of you. Of me." "A test?" Tronak pulsed confused orange. "They wanted to see what I'd do," Mika said, pacing slowly around the central platform, her footsteps echoing. "Would I follow your laws? Would I respect your authority? Would I submit to your judgment when you inevitably decided humans were too chaotic for your perfect system?" She stopped, looking up at each of them in turn. "And you know what I learned?" Nobody answered. "Your system is fragile," Mika continued. "You've built this massive galactic council on the assumption that everyone will eventually fall in line, that threats and executions will keep order. That power comes from positions and titles and rules." She gestured at Velkarn. "But a high judge with cracked crystals isn't much of a high judge. And a death sentence isn't much of a sentence when the condemned can unmake molecules." "So you will—" "What?" Velkarn's crystal voice was barely a whisper. "Destroy us? Take over the council? Declare war?" "God, no," Mika said, wrinkling her nose. "That sounds like paperwork. No, I'm going to go back to Earth and tell them exactly what happened here. And they're going to tell the other 6 Apex-class survivors. And then—" She smiled that not-nice smile again. "Then we're going to see how your perfect system handles the knowledge that there are 7 humans out there who can walk through your security, ignore your weapons, and laugh at your executions." The implications settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Rourke cleared his throat. For the record, this was not Earth's official diplomatic position. "Obviously," Mika said, "Earth's official position is, please don't execute our citizens. My position is, try it and see what happens." "This is terrorism," Gis said, finally unfrozen, but not moving from where she'd been stuck, all 4 arms trembling. "This is a threat against the Galactic Council." "This is truth," Mika corrected. "I didn't threaten you. I defended myself against an execution order. Big difference. You're the ones who decided I needed to die. I just proved why that was a really, really stupid decision." Carix slowly pulled herself up onto all 4 legs, scales scraping, tail dragging. Her yellow slit eyes were very wide. "The Council will not accept this. They will send fleets, armies." "Cool," Mika said, examining her fingernails again. "Send them. See how well molecular dissolution works, when the thing you're trying to dissolve can literally pull apart the molecules of your dissolution chamber. Should be fun." "This is madness," Velkarn said, his crystal formations pulsing desperate red. "You cannot expect the entire Galactic Council to bow to 7 enhanced humans." "I don't," Mika said. "I expect you to realize that maybe, just maybe, humans aren't the cute little primitives you thought we were. And maybe executing us for teaching pranks and sharing technology is not the brilliant plan you thought it was." Tronak extended a pseudopod cautiously. "What? What happens now?" Mika shrugged. "Now? I go home. You revoke the death sentence. You stop treating humans like criminals for existing outside your comfort zone. And everyone pretends this whole tribunal thing never happened." "And if we refuse?" Gis's mandibles clicked weakly. Mika turned, walking toward the chamber's main doors. The metal floor still bore the cracks and buckles from her earlier demonstration. Then I come back, with friends, and we have a very different conversation. She paused at the doors, looking back over her shoulder. Oh, and tell the Glorbians I said hi. Also, wait till they learn about water balloons. She pushed through the doors. They opened easily, despite being reinforced titanium that should have required 3 people to move. The doors closed, behind her, with a heavy thud. The tribunal chamber was completely silent, except for the soft hum of holographic displays, and Velkarn's cracked crystals occasionally tinkling as fragments fell to the floor. Rourke slowly walked toward the doors, his footsteps very loud in the quiet. He paused before leaving, turning back to look at the assembled aliens. Velkarn still listing badly on his podium, crystals dim and fractured. Jis frozen in terror, all 4 arms wrapped around herself. Tronak pulsing very faint, confused colors. Carix on all 4s, looking like she'd just survived a natural disaster. For what it's worth, Rourke said, his voice diplomatic again, Earth really did want this to go smoothly. Smoothly? Velkarn repeated numbly. Yes, smoothly. With talking, and compromise, and no demonstrations of reality-warping powers. Rourke adjusted his too-tight uniform. But since that ship has sailed, crashed, and burned, I suggest you take her offer. This is unprecedented, Jis whispered, mandibles barely moving. So was executing a human without doing proper research, Rourke countered. You're lucky she's one of the reasonable ones. Reasonable? All 4 of them said it simultaneously. The others, Rourke continued, opening the doors, probably would have just unmade the entire tribunal chamber. Mika at least left most of you intact. He stepped through. I'll expect the revised diplomatic paperwork by morning. No death sentences, reduced charges, formal apology. The works. And if we refuse, Carix hissed. Rourke looked back one last time. Then I suggest you make peace with your gods. Because the next time an Apex-class human walks into this chamber, they might not be in a demonstrative mood. He let the doors close. The tribunal chamber was silent again. Finally, Tronak pulsed very small, frightened white. I would like to change my vote on the death sentence. To no. Very much no. Seconded, Carix said immediately, her tail curled protectively around her legs. Thirded, Jis added, all 4 arms raised in surrender. Velkarn's crystal formations pulsed exhausted gray. He listed further to one side, crystals groaning. Meeting adjourned. Forever. I am retiring. Effective immediately. Someone else can judge humans. Someone suicidal. 3 hours later, in a small dingy bar on the station's lower level, Mika sat at a scratched metal table, nursing something that vaguely resembled beer, but was purple and fizzy. The lighting was dim orange, the kind that made everything look slightly sick. Rourke slid into the seat across from her. He looked older than he had in the tribunal chamber. Stress lines deeper, gray hair grayer. That, he said, was completely unnecessary. But fun, Mika said, taking a sip of her purple beer. It tasted like static and regret. Earth is going to have diplomatic hell to deal with. Earth created me, Mika pointed out. That's on them. Rourke sighed, rubbing his temples. The council is going to be terrified of humans now. Good, Mika said. Fear is respect in a scary hat. That's not how diplomacy works. No, Mika agreed, but it's how survival works. They were going to execute me, Rourke, for pranks and technology sharing. If I'd let them, what do you think they'd do to the next human who stepped out of line? Rourke didn't answer. They both knew the answer. You made your point, he finally said. Brutally, effectively, terrifyingly. But you made it. Thank you. That wasn't a compliment. I'm taking it as one anyway, Mika said, finishing her purple beer. It left a weird aftertaste that she was pretty sure was illegal in 3 systems. She stood, stretching again with those same loud pops. So, what now? Now. Rourke stood as well, straightening his uniform. Now I spend 6 months doing damage control. You go back to Earth. The Council rewrites half their criminal code to include "Don't execute reality warpers" as a guideline. And humanity takes another step toward either galactic respect or galactic war. Could go either way, Mika admitted. That's what terrifies me, Rourke said quietly. They walked toward the bar's exit together, footsteps echoing on metal floors. The door opened onto a corridor filled with various aliens, giving Mika a very wide berth. Word traveled fast. Hey, Rourke, Mika said as they walked. Yeah? Thanks for trying the diplomatic route first. Thanks for not killing everyone when it failed. Any time, Mika said. Then, with that not nice smile. Well, almost any time. Rourke shuddered. Humanity is doomed. Nah, Mika said, watching aliens scatter from her path, the corridor's white overhead lights making strange shadows on the gray walls. Humanity is just getting started. Behind them, emergency crews were still working on repairing the tribunal chamber. Velkarn had indeed retired, via urgent holocall filed from his medical pod. Jis had requested a transfer to literally anywhere else in the galaxy. Carix had written a 17-page report recommending the Council's complete overhaul of threat assessment procedures. And Tronek was still pulsing confused colors, trying to figure out how the cute little human had nearly destroyed the Council's highest court. On Earth, the other 6 Apex-class survivors got Mika's encrypted message. They smiled. They waited. They were patient. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. But it was definitely going to be interesting. And probably involve more pranks. Humans, after all, had a reputation to maintain.